Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
These meetings should never have taken place in the first place, Aaron. They were done. It was an attempt, I believe, by Rod Rosenstein to mollify our crazy president who is taking the unbelievable step demanding investigations into an investigation into him. The meetings shouldn't have happened. They happened. They should Kelly and Flood should never have been there in the first place. But yesterday when I heard, they just came to say hello, I thought that was bad enough. Did they just bring coffee and donuts? What is this? Just showing up establishes that the reason for the meeting is protecting the president and caring about his defense. Now that we know that they really tried to stay all throughout, and then the White House peddled this charade that they were just showing up for a meet and greet, it's outrageous.
I mean, Ben, let's be clear here. There's Republicans in the room. A GOP congressional staffer said it's the craziest leap I've ever heard that they were there. Right? Yeah. I mean, did the White House not get it that sending these guys was just a bad move?
Look, first of all, the easiest job in the world is to be the guy who never gives your name and then gives an insane quote to make the president look bad when you might not like him in the first place. So we don't know.
Maybe they don't want to punch in the face, which is what he gives you when you do use your name.
Hold on. Let me finish. Sarah Sanders, to say starting off the segment that she definitely lied, that's just not true. That's you want her to be a liar and you're going after her like she's a liar. You don't know if she's lying. They very well could have showed up with the intent to say hello and then to leave, which, by the way, there have been a lot of people that have also said that they did say hello and that they did decide to leave and they left before this started. So you're going off of people that won't even give their name in Washington, which is pretty easy to do to say something like that.
And all of this is classified, so there's a limit to what they can and should say. I assume we'll eventually find out more because we always do.
So
but
here's
right
my point,
now,
though.
I'm believing the people who say
Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a liar if you then just said that this was classified, and some people may actually not want to give out information about a classified meeting.
Because because she does not deserve the benefit of the doubt.
Can you admit, though, that it's extreme to say that she's a liar?
No, I don't think it's extreme at all. I don't think it's extreme at all. I think she could have known the truth yesterday. She probably did know the truth yesterday. If they were sent out by people who were in the room,
you don't
in the
know
meeting,
the truth. That's the whole point. How can you say, without a shadow of a doubt, that you know the truth when clearly you don't know what happened in a classified meeting?
I know the pattern.
I know
the pattern.
You don't know the pattern? You're not around this. You weren't even close to this meeting.
We do know the pattern of truth versus reality in general, Ben. But can I just ask, moving on from the Flood-Kelly appearance, okay, to the fact the meeting itself, the predicate of the meeting itself, right? The president, as we all know, has put this theory out there, right, that a spy was put in his campaign to help Clinton. But then when he talks about it, he always puts caveats around it, Ben. He says, I hope it's not so. If they had spies, it looks like a serious event, but we'll find out, right? So he puts it out there, but he kind of covers his own you-know-what. And this is what he has done on everything from the illegal immigration numbers in this country, calling Bill Clinton a racist, President Obama trying to take away people's guns. He throws these things out there and then says, it's not me. Let me just play a few.
I'm now hearing it's 30 million. It could even be 34 million, which is a much bigger problem.
Who are you hearing that from?
I'm hearing it from other people, and I've seen it written in various newspapers.
Are you yourself calling him a racist?
No, he was called that by the Obama campaign. He was called it loud and clear. He was extremely insulted.
Why did you put it in your tweet if you don't believe it?
They said it. I didn't say it.
You know, the president's thinking about signing an executive order where he wants to take your guns away. You hear it this way.
Mr. Trump, the president has not signed an executive order to take away guns.
No, I've heard that he wants to, and I heard it, I think, on your network. Somebody said that that's what he's thinking about. I didn't say he's signing it.
Ben, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can directly talk about the gun issue. There were Democrats talking about how the president should sign an executive order before out of office on guns.
But he didn't sign it.
And the president didn't say he signed it. He said he was thinking about it.
There were no Democrats
saying that.
He said
he was thinking about it.
There were never Democrats saying he should sign it.
See, this is where I'm not going to let you get away with rewriting history. I had Democrats on my show who talked about how the president of the United States of America, if he cannot get the votes needed in Congress to do something on guns, and they refuse to act, and then they attack the NRA, that he should do an executive order on guns.
That was never said. That was never said. That was never said.
So you're telling me that there was not a single Democrat.
What he's always saying is, I'm hearing it from other people. Others have said that. This person said that. That person said that. It's very successful, Ben.
Let's deal with the FBI issue now.
You get to put it in the public sphere without having to take responsibility for saying it yourself. At some point, shouldn't the president take responsibility? I believe, I am saying.
I know would be good.
Not somebody else. I'm just saying, right?
Let's deal with the FBI issue right now, since that's the one clearly that's on everyone's mind. The President of the United States of America has reason to believe that there was an informant in looking at his campaign. Now, of course, the FBI backed themselves up, and Comey and Clapper and Manafort. Let me finish.
No, but you're saying it right.
He wasn't there to spy.
He's saying it's a spy planted in his campaign to help Hillary Clinton. That is not what you just said.
White House.
It could be, and the other thing is the people that have come out and talked about this are people like Clapper who clearly can't stand the President of the United States of America. I would not trust that an informant in his campaign was not leaking information.
The Senate said he didn't learn a single new thing. Period.
If there was any evidence,
classified meeting, if you're a statesman, that's the right thing you should say.
Devin Nunes would have come out to a bank of cameras if there was the least bit, a shred of evidence that this was a spy. In fact, what it was, we know, was an informant. They were not investigating Donald Trump. They were investigating Russians meddling in Donald Trump's campaign.
It is Monday, the 28th of May of 2018, Memorial Day, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays. That's right, folks. It's had a busy weekend, and we like to put up, a daily special dish just for you. Well, speaking of dishes, that was Joan Walsh dishing up some truth to Ben Ferguson, and it was delicious. Well, with some help from Erin Burnett, too. Let's not forget about her. Ben Ferguson. Jeez. I just love how these guys, they act so much like the bully. But I've known bullies. And Ben Ferguson does fit the MO of a bully. Because, usually they're wimps, especially when you stand up to them. He would not fare well in many of the locker rooms that I was in, and not because of a hyper machismo. But a lot of the guys I played with were actually fairly progressive and liberal in their political understanding. Isn't that odd? Yeah, we always used to say that football players were much more educated than baseball players who normally got, drafted right out of high school. Whereas football players, normally put in a good 4 years of college, and just, college rubbing off tends to turn one into a critical thinker, or at least something of a critical thinker. Isn't that odd? Isn't that, and the right wing hates that. They do. So 1,500 kids are missing, and Rick Santorum said that they lose people all the time, don't worry. And they're not really missing. The Office of Refugee Settlement just doesn't know where they are. So don't worry, they're not lost. It's just one of those bureaucratic snafus. We don't know why. the sponsors didn't contact us. You know, when it says right there that they're supposed to contact them on, time specific. Rick Santorum, he's out there shilling for Putin, because that's ultimately who this is all protecting and advancing in terms of political clout. Donald Trump was tweeting this morning about Memorial Day, basically that all the dead who have fought for America through all of America's time and history would be thanking Donald Trump right now for making America great again. Memorial Day apparently is about Donald Trump. Yeah. I don't know. And then Chelsea Clinton is getting hammered. Yeah, she's getting hammered. Why? Well, she deigned to criticize Donald Trump, and you just don't do that. Maggie Haberman. What's wrong with Maggie Haberman? She had no problem calling Hillary and anybody else in the Clinton orbit liars, but she has a really hard time doing it, calling Trump a liar. Maybe it's because her parents covered Trump during his most mobbed up period, at least with the Sicilian mob in New York. And her mom worked as a PR flack for somewhere in the Trump orbit also. Isn't that coincidental? No wonder she has a hard time calling Trump a liar, but the Clintons, oh yeah, liar, 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 liar. Yeah, Maggie. Yeah, the internet never forgets. Really. Well, what's on the rest of the menu for today? I better get on it. We could just dally all, because there's so much that goes on the weekend. And we try to put it together in a coherent whole, and we call it River City Hash Mondays. That's it. Well, on the rest of the menu, Ireland's landslide vote to repeal their 8th Amendment in a historic abortion referendum marks a huge cultural shift. Probably even more of a cultural shift than when women were permitted to divorce. And that was fairly recently, too. Yikes. As an Oklahoma state senator, Scott Pruitt, he's the guy that runs the EPA, has that cone of silence, which is really an arc. This guy is so religious. And he has mentioned repeatedly that everything that he does comes from the word of God from on high, and he literally speaks with God. So this cone of silence, it is an arc. He's talking with God. Well, as a state senator, he introduced a bill to grant men property rights over unborn fetuses. They're not people. Property. That's the way this guy thinks. Yep. And the U.S. Border Patrol changes its story again about why its officer killed an unarmed woman. 19 years old, a kid. After the break, we move to the chef's table where top White House aide and in-house racist, Stephen Miller, announced that the Trump administration is going all in on racism to try to retain a Republican majority in Congress in 2018, because racism really sells now. It sells for, definitely a third of the population. And when 80% of the Republican voters have no idea that there's been indictments and arrests in the Russian probe, I don't know, maybe racism will work. We'll have to see. And with a brand spanking new U.S. arms sale pending, what happened to Saudi assurances on reducing civilian casualties in Yemen? Well, they promised to reduce civilian casualties in Yemen to Obama. They don't have to do that with Trump. In fact, the more dead, the better. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. You'll notice the chat room link on the rightish of the page. Kelly Lincoln, our roaring girl, monitors that throughout the day. So that's a good way to engage us and probably get a response rather quickly. And to the leftish of the page from the chat room link are the Contribute Donate buttons. And thank you for your generosity. We are unable to do this without you, truly. And your generosity keeps the bills paid. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for that. Do follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that platform, and rather deftly, I might add. You could go to Facebook, because we have a page there, and they give us analytics. I don't know why, but I guess maybe I'm the one that's supposed to be taking care of that. My God. But, Facebook, what are you going to do? And, follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. And I post a show notes and links diary on Daily Kos about 10 minutes before showtime, where I can be found on Daily Kos as Justice Putnam. All one word. Okay. I guess you could also search for the Justice Department on Netroots Radio. I think that's what the page is actually called. But I'm the author, so there. And the show notes and links are an integral part to this multimedia approach to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. It's not just sitting down here at the table. Oh, no. There's all sorts of reading material here. That's why it's a cookbook store, too. That's right. Okay, we better get on with this first article here by Claire Pearson, a lecturer in politics at the University of Liverpool. And this came out of the Conversation, which, of course, is in Australia, because you can't get this kind of news here. Because, you can't call Donald Trump a liar. You can call Hillary Clinton, Bill, any Democrat a liar. But for some reason, the authoritarian Donald Trump, oh no, can't do that. Maggie. All right, well, maybe she might have the secret to the universe, and so therefore. All right, so this is out of the Conversation. In a historic referendum, the Irish people have voted by a landslide to repeal the Eighth Amendment to the country's constitution, allowing the government to legislate for abortion. The vote illustrates the monumental shift in attitudes towards women's rights in Ireland. It's also testament to the power of a grassroots mobilized campaign, which enabled women to share 35 years' worth of experiences of pregnancy under the Eighth Amendment. High-profile cases, such as that of Savita Halappanavar and Amanda Mellett, resonated with the public conscience, and the telling of thousands of everyday stories illustrated how many women have been affected by the Eighth Amendment. Savita Halappanavar, if you don't remember her case, she had a problem with her pregnancy and was going to die. And unfortunately, Ireland, wouldn't even let her get back to her original country so that she could have the procedure. Yep. Groups such as Termination for Medical Reasons spoke of having to travel abroad to end pregnancies with fetal anomalies. Projects including In Her Shoes and Not at Home have published stories of abortion travel and buying abortion pills to end pregnancies alone without support or aftercare. In this professor's research, led by Dr. Fiona Bloomer of Ulster University, in Abortion as a Workplace Issue, women spoke of the silence and stigma surrounding abortion. They revealed the costs involved in having to travel, being able to afford or get leave from work, worries about confidentiality and access to follow-up treatment. Exit polls also asked people about their reason for voting yes. They revealed women's right to choose as the top influencing factor for voters, followed by risk to health or life. Gee, I guess it just means that women can be trusted to make decisions about their own pregnancy, their own bodies, their own lives. I don't know. I always thought they were just animals. I never thought that. But apparently there's enough in this country that do. One of the most heartening things to witness in this campaign was the North-South solidarity on the island. Alliance for Choice, Northern Ireland's key grassroots activist group campaigning for abortion rights in the region, regularly campaigned for a yes vote in the Irish counties bordering Northern Ireland. But what now for Northern Ireland? As with the 2015 same-sex marriage referendum, Northern Ireland will again be left behind on abortion rights. There, approximately 1,000 women travel to England each year to have an abortion or buy abortion pills online. The situation is untenable. A UN inquiry into Northern Ireland's abortion laws recently found them to be a grave and systemic violation of women's rights. Opinion polls consistently show strong appetite for change. The UK government allows Northern Irish women to access abortion freely on the National Health Service in Britain, but appears unwilling to intervene directly by legislating to enable them to access care in Northern Ireland. The final sentence of the British 1967 Abortion Act states, "This act does not apply to Northern Ireland." It is vital that now, with the solidarity witnessed on the island of Ireland, is also extended to women in the north by those in England, Scotland, and Wales. Offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays on this fine Memorial Day is an article out of Mother Jones by Alexander C. Kaufman. In 1999, Scott Pruitt, then an Oklahoma state senator, introduced a bill to grant men property rights over unborn fetuses, requiring women to obtain the would-be father's permission before aborting a pregnancy. Yeah, this is Scott Pruitt's bright idea. Pruitt, now the embattled administrator of the EPA, submitted the legislation again in 2005. The bill, which did not pass either time, faded from Pruitt's political legacy, but the legislation merits new examination as the EPA chief faces down an avalanche of corruption accusations. As previously reported, Pruitt's support from right-wing evangelical Christians, a group that largely opposes abortion, has helped him keep his job, amid calls from droves of Democrats and a handful of Republicans to fire the administrator. And while his current role atop the EPA does not give him any official control over abortion policy, he has appeared alongside Donald Trump in meetings with evangelical leaders, and his draconian history on the issue is of a piece with the administration. In one of Trump's first acts after taking office, he reinstated and expanded the Reagan-era global gag rule, withholding federal funding from charities and aid organizations that cancel women on family planning options that include abortion. And last week, the White House proposed a new domestic gag rule that would strip Planned Parenthood of funding. It's not surprising that another member of Trump's inner circle is hostile to women, said Don Hucklebridge, a senior director at the progressive super PAC American Bridge, which opposes Pruitt and supports abortion rights, but framing a fetus as a man's property is a new low. American Bridge resurfaced the legislation and shared it with reporters. The EPA did not respond to a request for comment. Pruitt has spent his 15 months at the EPA pushing to keep government out of the private sector. He sought to radically deregulate the fossil fuel and chemical industries, clear the way for companies to produce more asthma-triggering pollution, allow deadly chemicals to remain on the market, and revise restrictions on teenage workers handling dangerous pesticides. Look, if you think the end of the world is nigh, do you really want to make sure that everything is safe for people so that it doesn't happen, maybe? This guy wants to sit, he thinks, at the right hand of God. Well, I don't think that that's God he's going to be sitting next to. Pruitt's crusade against abortion rights continued after he left the state Senate to become Oklahoma's Attorney General. When a district court found a law requiring women to undergo an ultrasound before an abortion to be unconstitutional, Pruitt appealed the decision to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. After losing there, he unsuccessfully petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to take the case. In 2012, the Tulsa World excoriated Pruitt in an editorial for wasting more taxpayer money on this misguided effort to control doctor-patient interaction and the practice of medicine, but only when women are concerned. Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, is an article out of Think Progress by Danielle McLean. The U.S. Custom and Border Protection Agency is changing up its story about why one of its officers shot and killed an unarmed 19-year-old woman last week. Let's be clear. She was hiding. She was trying to hide in the bushes. And they just shot away. Initially, she was defined or described as an assailant, but they've changed that story since film has surfaced. Claudia Patricia Gomez Gonzalez, a Guatemalan migrant hoping to earn money in the U.S., was shot and killed by an unnamed 15-year veteran of the Border Patrol after crossing into the U.S. near Laredo, Texas. Initially, the agency claimed a group of undocumented immigrants started hitting the officer with blunt objects during an unprovoked attack while he patrolled a residential street searching for illegal activity. Gomez Gonzalez, who was shot and fatally wounded by the agent, was named as one of the assailants of the attack. But in an updated statement, the agency now says they were told by the officer that a group of immigrants rushed him instead of complying with demands to get on the ground. The Border Patrol no longer refers to the deceased woman as an assailant, but merely as a member of the group. The FBI and Texas Rangers are investigating the shooting, and the officer was put on administrative leave. Marta V. Martinez, a resident of the neighborhood where the shooting took place, said she did not see any weapons and that the group of undocumented immigrants were hiding. She also said she did not hear anyone yelling or say stop or don't run. During a news conference in Guatemala City, Gomez Gonzalez's aunt, Dominga Vicente, criticized her niece's treatment by federal agents and relatives and told the media that they would like the body returned to Guatemala. There are many people that have been treated like animals, and that isn't what we should do as people, her aunt said. Indeed. What have we become? All right, let's get to our break, and we'll come back and go through weather from around the world and finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. Hey, it being Memorial Day, I'm going to step out a little bit on the norm in terms of our break. Also because it's a holiday and some of our content for the break is unavailable. But in 2010, I recorded a live rendition of my song, No One Really Knows Him, on KUSF in San Francisco on Liquid Conspiracy Radio. And so we'll play that and some other content that we do during the break. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, a boy, his horse, and a lot more. All the screen time that young Charlie Plummer didn't get as the kidnapped victim in All the Money in the World is more than made up for in Lean on Pete, where he's in almost every frame as 15-year-old Charlie, spelled differently from his real name, and whose life is being lived on the margins. His mother is run off, and his dad is basically a social services nightmare, functioning more as a delinquent older brother. One morning while out running near his Portland, Oregon home, Charlie comes across a seedy local racetrack and, needing money, takes a job working for trainer-owner Dell, crustily played by Steve Buscemi, who quickly becomes a surrogate dad. Not that he's any good at it or even tries, but he fills a void, introducing Charlie to the hard side of life with the help of Dell's knocked-around-by-life, literally, female jockey friend Bonnie, played by Chloe Sevigny. Her advice to Charlie is to not get attached to the horses. That's ignored, of course, because attachment is exactly what he's seeking. Fearing for the picture's namesake, Lean on Pete, after Charlie learns the fate of horses who stop winning for Dell, he sets off on a multi-state journey with the animal to find his aunt in Wyoming. Director Andrew Hayes' first U.S. set picture, like his 45 Years and Weekend, is a study in contrasts. Innocence versus growing up, the legendary Glorious West versus the reality behind the myth of rugged individualism. An ever-present, if unseen character in this seemingly not political picture is what we'd call the safety net. How is a child alone at the center of this desperation? With a touching script, nuanced direction, and breakout performance from Charlie Plummer, Willie Vlautin's novel Lean on Pete is in good, if not the happiest hands here. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
President Trump is said to see himself as a sort of Teddy Roosevelt. TR, however, was known as a trust buster, while DT has become known as a trust hugger. We recently saw the hugger in action when he held a PR event to ballyhoo 50 proposals to stop Big Pharma from gouging American consumers with monopolistic drug pricing. People are rightly outraged that pill-peddling giants exploit patients who have life-threatening diseases and routinely jack up prices on common drugs by some 10% a year. As a presidential candidate, Trump jumped on this hot issue, accusing drug makers of, quote, getting away with murder. So now, with typical modesty, he has revealed his plan to stop the rip-offs, calling his 50 proposals the, quote, most sweeping action in history to lower the price of prescription drugs for the American people. Yeah, sweeping, as in sweeping the problem under the White House rug. 50 is just a political number meant to puff up Trump's plan as something big. But as one congressional Democrat pointed out, all 50 amount to, quote, a sugar-coated nothing pill. It even fails to include his own campaign promise to use the purchasing power of Medicare to negotiate lower prices for seniors. Far from feeling punished, Big Pharma itself felt it had gotten a warm presidential hug. Drug company stock prices went up immediately after the presidential speech. This is Jim Hightower saying, it's really no surprise that Trump is letting these corporate profiteers continue getting away with murder. After all, political posturing aside, he has stacked his administration with drug industry executives like Alex Azar, a former Eli Lilly honcho who is now his Secretary of Health. How revealing that Azar was standing right behind the president at the White House media event, beaming and applauding as Trump announced, well, a lot of nothing.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm Dr. Jeffrey Nemhauser, filling in for your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. As the U.S. population ages, more people are at risk for injuries. The largest percentage of injury-related deaths among this group are caused by falls. Elizabeth Burns is with CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention and Control. She's joining us today to discuss ways to prevent injuries and deaths from falls among senior adults. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Thanks for having me.
Elizabeth, what are some of the more common consequences when a senior adult falls?
Well, first, it's important to note that falls are incredibly common. More than 1 in 4 older adults will fall in a given year. Common consequences include loss of independence and an increased fear of falling, as older adults are afraid to do the same kinds of activities they were doing before. And this can actually lead to more falls, as older adults have less strength in their lower body. Common consequences include hip fracture and traumatic brain injury. And ultimately, in 2016, almost 30,000 older adults died because of a fall.
So are falls more common in men or in women?
Falls are more common in women, and more women go to the emergency department because of a fall, and more women die because of a fall. However, the rate of fall deaths are more common in men than women. What this means is that out of 100,000 men, more will die from a fall than out of 100,000 women.
What are common causes of falls among older people?
Getting on and off the toilet and getting in and out of bed are common causes of falls. Walking around the hallways at night when the lights are off is a common way people fall. There's also an increased amount of medications used in seniors, which have side effects like making them lightheaded, and that increases the risk of falls and is a common cause.
With all of those factors, what are some ways our listeners can decrease their chances of falling?
Older adults should talk to their healthcare provider or doctor about how they can decrease their chances of falling. This can be done during the annual wellness visit or during annual physicals. The doctor will recommend an exercise program that should increase strength and balance, or maybe refer you to a physical therapist. Additionally, they can look through your medications and perhaps reduce your doses or suggest medications that decrease your chances of falls.
Are there things we can do to modify our homes to prevent falling?
Oh, absolutely. Installing grab bars on the side of the toilet, making sure that rugs are taped down or removed, making sure that there's lighting in the hallways are all really simple ways that an older adult can modify their home to prevent falls.
Where can listeners go to get more information about preventing falls?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/study, and that's spelled STEADI.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I've been talking today with Elizabeth Burns about ways to prevent fall-related injuries and deaths among senior adults. Improving strength and agility through regular exercise and removing potential obstacles in the home can help decrease the risk for falls. If you or a loved one is older and struggle with mobility, talk with a healthcare provider about ways to decrease the risks for fall-related injuries and death. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Jeffrey Nemhauser for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
And Justice will be fading in here. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Justice Putnam. And would you care to say the title of the song or any?
Yeah, this is called No One Really Knows Him. And, I have this idea that the unknown soldier is not buried in a tomb, but the unknown soldier is really all the soldiers that have to fight in this war or any war. There's a slow train rolling. It's blowing around the bend, and there's a flag-draped coffin in the last car of that rolling train. No one really knows him, except maybe his comrades in arms and the few people who loved him, who lived near the hills of the setting sun. He had a young wife and a baby. He had a car and a garden too. They said he died for freedom and for the old red, white, and blue. No one really knows him, except maybe his comrades in arms and the few people who loved him, who lived near the hills of the setting sun. He never made a big plan, except to take care of those he was closest to. Maybe teach a Bible class and protect the old red, white, and blue. No one really knows him, except maybe his comrades in arms and the few people who loved him, who lived near the hills of the setting sun. He owned a store that sold electronics. He gave some weekends to the old red, white, and blue. He never questioned the reason when the president said there's some fighting to do. No one really knows him, except maybe his comrades in arms and the few people who loved him, who lived near the hills of the setting sun. He drove a load of bandages under a red cross and a crescent moon. His truck then exploded, 1,000 pieces of the old red, white, and blue. A slow train rolling, it's blowing around the bend, and there's a flag-draped coffin in the last car of that rolling train. No one really knows him. No one really.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays on this Memorial Day. And that song, No One Really Knows Him, might also have the theme of it's really, really, really hard to, forget a hero if you never knew him to begin with. They're all cannon fodder, aren't they? Well, hopefully we can stop that. All right. Okay, so let's begin with weather from around the world, and we always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 54 degrees Fahrenheit. We will be going to a high of 83 or so, about the same as we had yesterday. Winds currently are negligible, about 1 mile per hour out of the south-southwest. In a few hours, they will be then shifting out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, which is normal, and will continue overnight out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And we'll be picking up a little bit tomorrow because it'll be out of the northwest, but at about 10 to 15 miles per hour, with gusts maybe around 40. Wow. Grass pollen is very high, and the daytime UV index here is at a very high of 9. I haven't seen it that high, or rarely have seen it that high, so do take care if you have those numbers in your area. Yeah, get some sunscreen on, or more. Pressure is rising at 30.11 inches, and of course, high pressure is dominating. Visibility is 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 82%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase, and these people planted these personal purchased weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Okay, London is 76 and partly cloudy. Paris is 80 and partly cloudy, and both Paris and London are under a thunderstorm lightning watch, which could disrupt, the electrical grid. Rome is 75 and mostly cloudy. Kiev is 80 and fair. Kabul is 70 degrees and fair with a lot of wind. So maybe the drones won't be able to fly so easily. Okay. They might be able to fly, but maybe they aren't so accurate when they're trying to blow up wedding parties. Hong Kong is 80 and clear. Tokyo is 70 and partly cloudy. Sydney, Australia is 58 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 55 degrees and sunny. And New York is 59 degrees Fahrenheit and cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchase. These people planted these personal purchase weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Offering here at the chef's table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays is by Oliver Willis out of Share Blue Media. According to senior advisor Stephen Miller, the Trump White House has settled on a campaign of stoking racism as a desperate ploy to keep Republicans in control of Congress. Miller made that admission in an interview with Breitbart, the white supremacist website known for highlighting black crime. Miller, among the most loyal of Trump's underlings, once infamously announced that Trump's power will not be questioned, and attacked the pro-immigrant message etched on the Statue of Liberty. He still hates the Hispanic janitor at his high school at Santa Monica High. He tried to get that guy fired only because the guy was Hispanic. Miller explained to Breitbart that lacking any strong positive message going into the midterm elections, Republicans plan to use the criminal gang MS-13 as a boogeyman to scare up votes because ISIS is too far away. When you got Hispanics right here who you could paint with the broad brush of being, murderers, rapists, and they want to behead you. Sometimes even when you're not asleep. Okay. The big fight this summer is going to be with the Open Borders Democratic Caucus in Congress. Okay, let's see how that rolls off the tongue. Okay, you never roll out like new products and a new advertising campaign in August. I think probably now is the time to sort of test it. Let's say that again. The Open Borders Democratic Caucus in Congress. Okay. I think you could say the Open Borders Democrat. Come on, condense it. A lot, say a lot with just a little, Stephen. Apparently, his English teacher might have been Hispanic too, so therefore he didn't really learn. No, this guy knows exactly what he's doing. Using a lie that Republicans have often used to attack Democrats, there is no such thing as an open borders faction in Congress. Republicans like Miller simply use the inflammatory term to attack those who are pro-immigrant. Oh, you just want open borders. Yeah, you know what? I want closed borders and we're kicking you out now. How do you like them apples, fella? Yeah. I mean, Ivanka puts out a picture of her hugging her, child, a toddler. While at the same time, they have a special bus. ICE has developed a special bus to strap in and incarcerate babies and then take them to an ICE facility. And they don't call it ICE for nothing. These are refrigerator boxes that they are putting them in, and they lower the temp to just, a little bit above what you would want to keep your vegetables crisp at. Oh, you want a Mylar blanket? That's too much for you, you animal. Unbelievable. And they're stoking this hatred, this racial animus, and it seems to work in the lizard brain of the GOP, unfortunately. At least many who vote that way. Okay, huddling with Miller and his son-in-law Jared Kushner, Trump reminded them the crowds loved his rhetoric on immigrants along the campaign trail, and both Miller and Jared laughed. Oh yeah, that's great, Pops, let's do that. And he actually performed such repugnant behavior right then and there, acting as if he were at a rally. He then read aloud a few made-up Hispanic names and described potential crimes they could have committed, such as rape or murder. When Trump approvingly pointed out that his supporters enjoyed when he talked about throwing Latino immigrants out of the country, Miller and Kushner laughed again. The White House disinformation campaign echoes the desperate message used by Virginia gubernatorial candidate Ed Gillespie. Endorsed by Trump, the Gillespie campaign ran numerous ads about MS-13, attacking Democrat Ralph Northam for supposedly being soft on immigration, but voters rejected the racist message 53 to 45%. 45% still want the racism. Yeah, let's get them. It has been a tradition with Republican campaigns to make an appeal to bigotry when everything else isn't working. The party has often successfully deployed fear of another as a pathway to electoral success. Now, Stephen Miller, representing the White House and speaking to a white supremacist website, revealed that the gutter path will once again be the party's chosen route to hold on to its power. But so far, voters have rejected that decision, and they are poised to do so once again. Let's just hope that 80,000 voters in 3 swing states aren't influenced by some influence campaign in Cyrillic.
Dansez maintenant sous l'été, les pieds nus dans le sable. Dansez maintenant et jetez vos ennuis dans les vagues qui dansent.
And last offering here at the Chef's Table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is an article by Issa Kasem out of Just Security. The State Department is reviewing a multi-billion-dollar deal between Saudi Arabia and the arms manufacturer Raytheon. Should the State Department decide to license the sale, Congress would then have 30 days to block it. In June of 2017, a similar, smaller arms agreement was approved, predicated on Saudi assurances to change procedures and undertake a large $750 million U.S.-run training program to reduce civilian casualties. Nearly a year on from that agreement, and with another one pending, now is a good time to step back and evaluate the efficacy of any such safeguards put in place. That analysis shows the civilian casualties from Saudi coalition bombing have actually increased, not decreased. This raises serious concerns about Saudi Arabia's ability and willingness to reduce civilian deaths, even as a major new arms deal is under review. The munitions from this new arms sale would doubtless be used in Yemen, where for the past 3 years, Saudi-led coalition forces have been conducting a massive bombing campaign that has caused thousands of civilian casualties and been widely condemned as violating international humanitarian law. Although not directly engaged in the combat, the United States support has been integral to the campaign, providing refueling, intelligence, technical support, and munitions to the Saudi Air Force. This involvement raises serious legal and policy concerns for the U.S. America's close support of Saudi-led forces that have likely committed war crimes may violate international law and could potentially expose U.S. citizens to criminal or civil liability. It also may undermine long-term U.S. interests and national security. The Saudi Air Force is only capable of functioning effectively with extensive American support, according to former CIA senior official Bruce Riedel. We are an enabler of the war, he said. If the U.S. decided today that it was going to cut off supplies, spare parts, munitions, intelligence, and everything else to the Royal Saudi Air Force, it would be grounded tomorrow. This reliance makes the U.S. lack of substantive oversight all the more troubling. Oversight? How are you able to grift if you have oversight? I really think I know what's going on here. It's sort of like a carbon offset. They'll just pay Trump a bit more money if they can keep killing a bunch of Yemen civilians. Okay, we reached our quota, so we'll have to pay another offset here. Have some more largesse on our dime. Or whatever, our real. Have some more reals. Okay, well, the article goes on and basically sums up that without better oversight in the internal workings of the Saudi military, it's difficult to say whether the training and safeguards put in place last year are making a difference. Probably not, except maybe they're being counseled on how to increase civilian deaths by just paying a little bit more to Don. It's okay. It's okay. It's called, I guess, carbon-based life form offset. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for today, but we'll be back tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. I'm going to be spending some time at a memorial service. My mom and I are going to go to the local function here at the cemetery, and the VFA will be handling things, and we'll be placing some carnations on some rogue river denizens who have fought valiantly to make sure that brown shirt thugs never ruled America. All right, so stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day. Breaking news is always happening, as you know. And we'll visit with you tomorrow in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs près du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Coeur. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie d'un novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin l'âge tendre, nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.